Welcome back, guys. Video 8. We're getting there slowly but surely, little by little. Now, the last couple of videos, Jesus taught us how to pray. So we're going to do a quick review about prayer, and we're going to tack on fasting because Jesus had similar critiques for this act as well. To start, Jesus maps out foolish and wise prayer, and then he does the exact same thing with fasting. Before we continue, we're going to go through the significance of this practice. Now, a biblical fast is when you forego food intake for a set period of time. It was a self-imposed restraint on comfort, just as we see in Daniel. I ate no pleasant food, no meat or wine came into my mouth, nor did I anoint myself at all. So why do this? Well, fasting is prayer's sister. In the Bible, we see that prayer and fasting are often used interchangeably or together. This is because the objective for both of these practices are the same. Fasting was a common way to humble yourself before God, just as prayer is. Then I proclaimed a fast there at the river Ahava, that we might humble ourselves before our God, to seek from him the right way for us, and our little ones, and all our possessions. Now this is obvious, but this process naturally weakens us, just as it says. My knees are weak through fasting, and my flesh is feeble from lack of fatness. When food is lacking, strength leaves, and the dependence on God is highlighted, thus humbling us. It helps men to see beyond their pleasure-induced comas and awakens a spiritual awareness of lack. Men forget their fragility when their bellies are full, and begin to believe that the strength of the body is something that's just a given and is owed to them. So man's weakness is no longer overlooked if hunger is present. It is now glued to the forefront of his mind. God must be sought for any type of satisfaction, whether for body or soul. And fasting is what will push men closer to that fact. The eyes of all look expectantly to you, and you give them their food in due season. You open your hand and satisfy the desire of every living thing. Unto you I lift up my eyes, O you who dwell in the heavens. Behold, as the eyes of servants look to the hand of their masters, as the eyes of a maid to the hand of her mistress, so our eyes look to the Lord our God until he has mercy on us. However, the purpose of fasting can be corrupted if it's performed in unbelief, just like prayer, as we saw in the last session. Remember, we looked at wise prayer that is prayed by believers, then we looked at foolish prayer that is prayed by unbelievers. And we also studied closely the Lord's Prayer, which is a reference model for all prayer. So let's refresh ourselves on this, and you'll see the connection Jesus is making to fasting. Now, prayer is the supreme act of humility before God. The first step that must be taken when asking anything of him or seeking his ways. It's the practice of putting off pride, daily recognizing our weaknesses, setting aside our wills, and learning to fully rely on his strength and provision. That is exactly what prayer is, humble submission. However, some men discovered a shameful advantage in faking prayer that gained them honor among the religious. These prayers were prayers of showmanship that tricked the simple into idolizing the wicked, and then they would swindle them into enthroning religious zealots instead of God. The fame, praise, and money that can be raised through this fraudulent endeavor should never be the believer's aim. Beware of the scribes who desire to go around in long robes, love greetings in the marketplaces, the best seats in the synagogues, and the best places at feasts, who devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayers. These will receive greater condemnation. For they have set their eyes, crouching down to the earth, as a lion is eager to tear his prey, and like a young lion lurking in secret places. Like predators, these men would siphon the livelihoods of the common folk and use it as fuel to construct their earthly kingdoms. Now, as Christians, we should never use the name of God to gather prestige for ourselves in our churches, just like the scribes and the Pharisees did amongst the congregation of Israel, or anywhere else for that matter. Now, a heart that lays its hopes upon the golden idols of wealth and power would ultimately make that person a godless fool. A true believer would only point their prayers toward heaven, where the only one worthy of it would be in their sights, regardless of their earthly condition. Wisdom is in the sight of him who has understanding, but the eyes of the fool are on the ends of the earth. Better is a little with the fear of the Lord than a great treasure with trouble. Better is a dinner of herbs where love is than a fatted calf with hatred. So now Jesus says the same thing about prayer's sister, which is the gesture of fasting. When you fast, do not look somber as the hypocrites do, for they disfigure their faces to show others they are fasting. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that it will not be obvious to others that you are fasting, but only to your Father who is unseen. And your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. A wise fast is one that is performed in truth, solely for God in faith. There's not going to be a concern for who sees you. Not that you're condemned if anybody happens to see you. It's just a basic principle. Jesus is not telling us to avoid praying and fasting in public, but rather he's telling us not to practice these things for the sake of counting eyeballs. When fasting is done to entreat God's favor alone, God promises to pour out heavenly blessing that no man could ever hope to produce on his own. Justification for sin, peace in the heart, light for the soul, and an ever-renewing spirit of gentleness for the benefit of your peers. The light of the eyes rejoices the heart, and a good report makes the bones healthy. Okay, so the next verses in Matthew chapter 6 piggyback off of what was just stated, and it's going to teach us about the nature of idolatry, which is the transgression of the first and the second commandments. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them, nor serve them. For those who make an image, all of them are useless, and their precious things shall not profit. They are their own witnesses. They neither see nor know, that they may be ashamed. Who would form a god or mold an image that profits him nothing? Serving idols shuts off the supply of light that God offers people. Divine enlightenment evaporates in this case. The path of these men grow increasingly dim as they walk. With this progressive loss of understanding, God continuously hides life's significance and meaning more and more, asking themselves as they go, what should I be pursuing? Always concluding to set their sights on a myriad of things that have no worth. This is the effect of blindness and the continual rejection of light. No one's able to see the hamster wheel. The voyage embarked on was always one of vanity, setting off to search the world for life and stability when it never really had any such treasure in the first place. The hope of their hearts rests on a pillar of sand, just as Christ said, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." However, if we rest our hearts on the rock of Christ and we hope in the light of God, we'll be able to see what actual treasure is. And that at its core is the rejection of idols, refusing to be led by the false spirits that is behind all that pleases the flesh. This satanic collaboration seeks to promote a crooked version of God's legitimate treasures. When blind men turn to the light of God, he restores their sight and revives their minds. Tracking down secular treasures like silver and gold will be a thing of the past. Instead, the Holy Spirit reveals that the well-being of souls is life's top priority. Souls are the treasures of God. That's what matters most to him. Family, friends, and even our enemies. Bringing his creation back from the brink of death is the most important task. As his followers, we should attend to this very thing, and God will reward that. The rest isn't really worth our time. Mammon comes and goes. Money hopelessly flies away like birds. It was never meant to be pursued. But souls are forever. This is the heavenly concern, and we'd be wise to consider this godly objective as often as we can. He who trusts in his riches will fall, but the righteous will flourish like foliage. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he who wins souls is wise. I say to you, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. To take part in this great assignment is what brings us the most meaning and joy in our lives. So as Christians, we must keep our wits about us in order to stay focused on the mission that matters. Continuing to serve the kingdom of heaven is the goal, and to stop ourselves from sliding back into the kingdom of darkness. However, we do not keep ourselves, God does. The key to success in this area is to lock our eyes on God. That's it. Trust the light. Ask Him for guidance, no matter what. He will lead and empower and supply all the needs you have for your heavenly call and vocation. So I want to leave you with this illustration. A light switch is designed to be activated when pointed upward. If our eyes are set on the kingdom of God, we will be able to discern all clearly in time as we persist. God will show us our shortcomings, wheels that need to be aired up, joints that need to be oiled, and the path that we need to travel. But if we shift our eyes to the kingdom of the world, we no longer are getting the supply of light. Confusion and worry begin to creep in and stifle our walks. For Christians, this error drops our potential. The realm of the flesh is getting the best of us in this scenario. This consequence works as a supernatural course correction for God's children, but for the idolater, the unbeliever, and the hypocrite, this is a matter of life and death. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. If you found value in this video, please like and subscribe, because when you support the video, YouTube will push it out to a broader audience. May the Lord bless you all.